Thank you, Raoul. Thank you very much for both introductions and good words. I think I'll just start. We have lots of doers today through the symposium, as you can see through the schedule, and we'll have to make the introduction short, and so I'll just start with my introduction. Sadly, beauty is a word that many associate with shallowness, old world, non-progressive values. The cultural bias against beauty has lasted nearly 80 years. At the Boer word, in the visual arts, architecture, politics, psychology, poetry, and music. However, in daily language, people often describe things as beautiful because the emotional experience of beauty is very real. Amongst many, visual thinking is perceived, if not deceptive, then absolutely superficial and is lacking an intellectual depth. Most architects no longer imagine beauty as a serious way of knowing. James Hillman wrote in the late 1990s, psychology as a study of soul has influenced by theories derived from scientific medicine, physics, chemistry, physiology, anthropology, and linguistics. Shockingly, beauty is not a category in psychotherapy, even though each of us knows that nothing so affects the soul, transports it, a moment of beauty in nature, a face, a song, a dream. It was Mark Cousins, the head of general studies at the AIA, I think it was 2001, and he asked me a question. He said, you talk about things you like. Is this something you really hate as an architect? And I had to write about it at the time, and I knew straight away. It's 20th century focus in architecture on the practical, utilitarian, socio-economical, political issues, leaving aesthetics behind. Content was satisfying and more significant along a lack of respect to visual culture. And I had this poster you see here, which was hanging in my father's office. It was that say there was a phrase most popular in Hebrew and Israeli culture. Don't look at the jar, but at its content. As in the English phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, but the word content is there, and very significantly so. So in 2010, I was talking about a troubled relationship between architecture and beauty through my book then. The paradox is that good architecture and brilliant buildings are still mostly judged by their capacity to produce an attractive aesthetic experience. But I found through the different symposium, and you can see here actually it was exactly 15th of September 2010 was a third symposium on that book, and I just realized more again and again that architects became inexperienced in talking about beauty as they haven't been engaged with it for quite a while in conversation, not in the making, I think. In early modernism through early 1920s, a new aesthetics was the debate and what led to inner success. Yet, by the early 40s, aesthetics tendencies were eliminated, and the modernist scene became all about form follows function. A lot to do with the three historians that you can read in the catalog essay. Architecture became strongly conditioned by utility, materials, construction, economics. The modern use in our language tied aesthetics with personal attitude. Aesthetics equal taste equal subjective. Along the receding interest in aesthetics, the interest in the subjective was receding too. 20th century's democracy was about public opinion took over individual taste and power. 500 years of scientific progress and the appearance of numerous new technologies enhanced further trust in rational thinking. A critique on the hegemony of the eye, often undermining the importance of intuition, instincts, and aesthetic judgment, is in visual thinking in architecture. But it's aesthetics of architecture that fuses utility, function, rationality, technology, economy, with poetics and image, metaphysics, art, and symbolization. Aesthetics hold it all together. For thousands of years, art was about aspiration to beauty. It's funny, I have the time here and it covers some of my text. Architects' craftsmanship was clearly coming through manufacturing, reflecting on a meaningful change, as the very architectural drawing is their craft, culturally, though, inconsistent with their prevalent anti-subjectivist claims. But the return of the author was there. Authorship in architecture, as in music, turned quickly to ownership, especially when files are easily shared and content is added or deleted. The upshot is a complex reality, while the open source design makes it even more so. Nevertheless, individuals often expect to be recredited for their contributions, as we see with this wonderful steampunk in front of the museum, where even like only today we could have people, one team working together between Melbourne and London, I think it's who met each other in a conference. So I think it's quite incredible, and reflect on that. Apparently, artificial intelligence researchers spelled out lately the significance of adding human intuition to AI, as generative design tools act through pure logic and lack intuition. Robots are good at precision and repetition, and humans are good at perception, awareness, and decision-making. Hence, AI researchers developing hybrids that augment robots with human, augmenting digital gains with human intuition. Architects do that too these days, but most still find it difficult to share their biased terminology and psychology. We cannot simply define beauty as the experts these days in neuroscience and mathematics. We lost our expertise, we were, as a discipline. Two disciplines that contribute most to the science of beauty these days. Both haven't dropped their trust in the experience of beauty, in what it leads to, in its role in humans' activity, pleasure, reward, and knowledge gathering. These two fields are the most contributing to our understanding of how relevant beauty is in human life and knowledge. Semi Zeki is a professor of neurobiology and neuroscience, neuroaesthetics. He coined actually the term neuroaesthetics, studying the relationship between brain activity, aesthetic appreciation, and artistic creativity. Since summer 2014, I met regularly Professor Zeki to discuss the visual brain and experience of beauty, the experience of beauty in the context of neuroscience and architecture. Zeki's finding between 2011 to 2014, not so long ago, through fMRI tests, reflected on cortical activation correlating with the experience of 4 types of beauty, which all take place in the same area of the emotional brain: the visual beauty, musical beauty, moral beauty, and mathematical beauty. Mathematical beauty, it's quite surprising, it all takes place in the same area of the brain, as mathematical beauty is highly cognitive experience, whereas biological beauty, such as beautiful face or flower, is a sensorial one. In the evolutionary context, there is a tremendous significance to the recurrence of pleasure generally, and including the pleasure of experiencing beauty for the very survival of the individual. Our civilization couldn't exist without the recurrence of experiencing beauty. Beauty makes us healthier and happier. It's the mathematician Robert Diagraph who says, "Our days are the golden days of the relationship between mathematics and physics. There is more scientific evidence today than ever before that mathematical beauty plays an important role there. Most theories that were proved to be true, recognized early on, very beautiful mathematically." Characteristic of the experience of beauty, as mathematicians suggest, include surprise, magical effect, novelty, profundity, economy, clarity, elegance, expresses unconscious perception of order. Everything falls into place, gives us a sense of pleasure and satisfaction. We can characterize the experience of beauty, yet we cannot define it in simple terms. So I'm very pleased to see this sign on the museum, on the Estonian Architecture Museum, as you can imagine. But this week is a very special week because, as you can see, you're holding the TABS catalog. But I just got also the AD magazine that I had the pleasure to be the guest editor. And I hope you'll have them all, or both. The TABS 2019 catalog and the September 2019 AD magazine are complementary to each other and launched together this week, but they're complementary, so it's not a repeat of the same material. Even my introduction, I try very hard to make it very different, cover different issues. Some will ask, how can you indulge with raising the issue of beauty matters in the midst of Anthropocene, in a state of ecological emergency? But when I kept flying here to Tallinn, I kept kind of smiling at myself, looking at this, in emergency state, what to do. And I think my answer is implicitly captured in this image, a different state of emergency, as I just mentioned. So if we need to take care of planet Earth, we need to take care of ourselves before, so we can do the job well. The curatorial exhibition at the Estonian Architecture Museum had a sort of one leading ambition: to stir and raise the subject. So the subject is Beauty Matters, as the title of the symposium. Just like love, it's real. And the overall thing is the resurgence of temporarily dormant, I hope, beauty. Through the lens in search of new urban habitats along the pursuit of new beauties, speculations for Tallinn 2019 as a local global model. Exploring two burning issues today in architecture: new beauties and new urban habitats. I just want to say a few words. I think few of you haven't been there yet, so hopefully this evening and tomorrow evening there's more time to go and visit the exhibition in the museum. But we have 8 main exhibitors that I had the pleasure to be able to select for that curatorial exhibition. In the competition, most of them were already mentioned, not all. And I think part of the ambition was that when I saw the space at the museum, that we have this street-like, and I'll turn it even more into a street-like. And I don't see the vision of today or tomorrow's street as the vision of metropolis in the 1930s. I think it's a lot more about nature, and so that's, nature involved, trees and nature involved within the urban context. So that's why you saw that there are 40 birch trees, and at the end, this beautiful photograph by Andrew Masick of a birch tree forest at the end of winter where the snow melts already. So the atmosphere I tried to create in this exhibition, wrapping all the exhibits together, was this evening moment after the snow melts and in the city. So the ex-exhibitors, Su Fujimoto from Tokyo, who will be with us tomorrow, and Kadri Kerger, Italian architects who live right now in New York. She won't be with us, but her sister did a documentary, so you'll see her. She couldn't make it here. She was here doing her work in setting up the exhibition, but she had to leave yesterday. Oit Kadarik and Mikkel Tur, who are quite prominent architects in Estonia. I think all Estonians are aware of their work. I found the work extremely attractive and clever and wit. As all, my choice was, looking at the ability to come up with new aesthetics, and I think all the 8 exhibitors have that. Rodney and Anlo, who came all the way from Melbourne. I'm very happy that a lot of Australians, there's a lot of Australian presence here, because I believe for a long time that Australia has to suggest something to the world architecturally. I think they're too modest down there, but hopefully we'll know more about their architecture, generally speaking. Some architecture from Vienna, who are both professors in Innsbruck University, who were very lucky to win a proper competition to be built in their early part of their career, as in Korea. Space Popular, who I know from London. Actually, I met them in Innsbruck in a conference, right? That's how we got to know each other, and was very impressed by their work. Mostly impressed by visiting their installation, Glass Chain. It was incredible work that you should watch on the web, on their website. Elena Manfredini I know for many years, and I always find her work extremely attractive, and how it kind of moved forward. And you'll have the experience of the AR that we brought here. And we were very lucky to get a grant to be able to do the VR, MR experience with the great design of Paula Strunden. So I invited Barnaby to take part in the exhibition. As we share a studio, we have Barnaby Gunning Studio and Yael Reisner Studio, but we work in the same space. And Barnaby also, we designed the exhibition together as well. I was very keen to meet interesting people from the high-tech industry in Estonia. Estonia is Israel, 2 small places that invested a lot in high-tech industry for different reasons. And thanks to Martin Melnirovsky, he managed to convince the scientists from the high-tech, one of the leading professors in Tartu University, to give me 1 hour to discuss who should I approach, which researcher. And he gave me a list. We were sitting 1 hour. It was very efficient. And it was like one after another. Yes, Alvo Ablo is the name of the professor. I say, give me another one. Who else? And so I looked again. Yes, this one. I got a list of 7, but the high-tech industry is completely disinterested in architecture, completely disinterested in what I was interested to get them involved with. But there was one guy, amazing guy, Enric that I saw actually his work in the BBC Click program, which is all to do with high-tech development. And so you'll see in the exhibition, he was a part of a group, a European group, where they invented the first ever artificial plant robot. So we did something related to that. Anne Masik, I was introduced to him by chance, and I thought his photography is fantastic. And so we have this huge enlarged photograph there, wrapping the street at the end. And I had the pleasure to get to know Nathan and Jacob Tulve, who actually did the soundscapes to go with their light cycle that ABB were kind to help us with. So it seems like I managed to bring to one room a neuroscientist, a mathematician, a philosopher, and a poetess. And we knew already 6 months ago that Semizeki won't be able to be with us, but Taylor Enoch from his laboratory was kind to join us and take the role. I was trying to keep in time, and I think so I can elaborate a bit more, but I'll just check, yes, so I'll just say a few more words. So Rona Aroni, he's actually Israeli, just like me, but I got to know him through a book he wrote, and the book is Mathematics, Poetry, and Beauty, which I think anyone should read it. It's a great read. I wish you could read it in Hebrew, because it's even better. But I have both, of course. I read first the English one, for some reason. And I think it's when I realized through my conversation with Semizeki that mathematical beauty has, we share so much. So I wanted to know more. And although I study science, biology, but I don't really knew mathematics and its relationship with beauty. So I think the book was a really wonderful exploration, and also getting to know new things. And I think Rona Aroni is a secret poet anyhow, and his love for poetry makes it very clear that what poets and mathematicians share is their desire for beauty, and he explained it so beautifully. Graham Harman is I really thank you so much for coming and joining us. And Graham is, I guess, the most influential young philosopher who founded a movement called the object-oriented ontology. And so we will have I was really delighted that Graham thought that, beauty, he wished to talk about the return of beauty, which for me is, I'm still studying the triple O, but I think architects are so unconfident. I think we're in such a fragile kind of moment of bringing it back. And I think it's great to have the mathematician or the neuroscientist or the philosopher to give us as architects such a support. Maria Ley is an Estonian poetess that I had the pleasure to meet her a few times and really wanting her to be with us. And I really wanted to have a poetess thanks to Rona Aroni's book. And I thought they will have a good conversation together. So it will be all about the return of beauty. And beauty is not a singular idea, but its plurality prevails. That's what I think. So thank you very much. Thank you.